Hi everyone, it's Cristina and Alejandra from ESTAS Beauty, and we are so excited to be joined today by Trent, the founder of Veritas Leadership Group. He's our executive coach. He has hosted many podcasts, and we have him today to flip the tables on us. He is actually going to interview us. So Trent, I will let you take it from here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about connecting with you two on this particular format and just ask you a few questions. I get curious. And if we start talking about Every Scar Tells a Story, if that's the title of the podcast, what's the origin story for ESTAS? Every Scar Tells a Story.
Okay. It starts, of course, with our scars. Alejandra and I both have scars. I have a scar down the center of my chest from open heart surgery that I got maybe 6 years before Alejandra had her very first surgery. And now she has 2 C-sections. But when we started ESTAS, she had her very first C-section. And it all started because we were at a lunch right after her baby was born. I think, Alejandra, this was your first outing after you had your baby. Is that correct?
First outing post-baby. It was in that first 3-week window when you leave the hospital.
So this was, any moms out there know what kind of time this is. Alejandra was all dressed up. It was her first outing. And we were sitting together at a lunch, and I knew she had had a C-section. So I asked her how her scar was doing without realizing that was a very tricky question for her. How did you feel when I asked you that?
Yeah, so I recently, literally a couple days ago, found the picture of us from that lunch. And I got so many flashbacks looking at that picture. Christina was wearing a button-up print shirt, and I was wearing a muumuu thing because I didn't want anything to touch my body, anywhere, right? And I was still wearing the hospital underwear that you get after you give birth, which any woman listening to this will know what that is. And I remember her asking about my scar, and I was first I was just why would you even ask that? That's a weird question. Why would you ask that? And then I don't remember
that's
if you
deeply intimate question. Hello,
yeah,
my name is.
I was,
hey, tell me about
I was
your
just
scar.
what? That's so bizarre. And
In
then
all fairness, we knew each other.
Okay.
We did know each other. And we were friends and friendly. Not best friends, but we were friendly. But I was what do you even say about a scar? Why would she even ask that? And I'm sure I had a visual what is going on? And at some point I was
yeah, I don't even know how to answer that.
It was physical for sure. And I was I don't know. I don't touch it. I don't look at it. That's and I didn't want to get into, on the inside, I was I'm afraid my organs are going to spill out of my body and it feels horrible. Yeah. I wasn't going to say that at a lunch, right? So I think I was just I short circuited. you know, Christina with her V-neck shirt started caressing her scar, and I will never forget the image of her with her hands going like this, and that was nails on a chalkboard. I was she's touching it. She what? Don't touch it. That was the interaction. That was it.
It was, I wish when I had asked, happy I didn't, but I wish when I had asked that question I had just retracted, because there was a visceral response. I could see everything in her face changed. But instead, as sometimes I do, I just pushed forward and was no, Alejandra, you can take care of your scar. It could feel better. This is where your baby came from. You should love your scar. That was a lot. That one I would have retracted. But I tried to convince her that her scar wasn't a bad thing and it wasn't ugly and that it was going to get better, and none of it really sank in. So eventually I did move on, and we moved on to the rest of the lunch and had a lovely lunch. But I did go home that night thinking, oh my gosh, first of all, I felt bad that I brought it up. But then I also felt there's got to be something I can do. I knew the feeling that she had felt, because when I first had my surgery, the first thing I asked when I was told I was going to need surgery was, am I going to have a scar? So I knew that the idea of having a scar is terrifying, and it's something that people don't want. And then I knew what it felt like afterwards to have that scar, and those sensations and how it feels and how you don't want to touch it and how it feels like you're going to burst open. So I thought, okay, I know what I can do to sort of fix how I traumatized poor Alejandra at lunch. I'm going to go buy her the most beautiful, luxurious, amazing scar product I can find. I think at the time you were at Chanel. You were at Chanel working in beauty. So I knew it had to be very high end, very beautiful. She cares a lot about skincare, so it had to be a good product. I figured there's one out there. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find the best one there is, and that's going to be her new mom gift. I went looking for it, and it did not exist. I was actually shocked. I was like, I'm just missing it. How does this not exist? I mean, there are sheet masks for your feet now. Like, how is there not a luxury scar product?
So wait, back up for me. How long ago is this? This isn't 20 years ago. This is like...
No.
2018.
When was Alejandra Mariana born? 2018?
2018. So she was born in May of 2018. 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And we can't find luxury scar care anywhere for any amount of money in 7 years ago.
Nothing. Wow. I mean, I think the best product I could find was like a $28 product from Amazon that looked like better than what you find in the pharmacy. And I was like, well, I can't give that as a gift. Like, that's not really what I had in mind.
That's not quite what we're looking for.
Yeah.
How good could it be? Fair question, right?
Yeah,
if it worked awesome, maybe that's different. But
maybe, but it just wasn't. It wasn't I wanted a gift and something that really felt like luxury. Like not. I don't know why. I thought it just seemed so obvious that should exist to me. Luxury skincare for your scars. But it wasn't there at the time. And I didn't want to give her a medical gift. Like I could have, collected all the scar creams that I found out there and made a gift basket. But like, that's not nice. That kind of would have
be aggressive.
Backfired.
Yeah, that's its own story. Unconsequence, right? But you by then had some time to get comfortable with your own scar.
Yes,
Cristina,
yes.
right? So by that, how long had you kind of been working through that?
That was 2018. I had my surgery in 2012. So this was 6 years after my surgery. And I had gone to a place where I was very comfortable with my scar. I would touch it. I actually told people that I thought it was cool, that I would show, I still show it off, but I would show it off purposefully because I thought I looked cooler because of it. So, but that took a bit. It took a lot of care, and I didn't use any products. I used ingredients that had been recommended to me by my surgeon. So I used a combination of different ingredients, and I did that for a long time. And then there was a very specific moment that I remember where something in my brain shifted. I was going to a follow-up doctor's appointment after my surgery, and I was feeling really sick that day. And I was in an elevator, like in Manhattan, in a Manhattan hospital, in an elevator, and just like feeling nauseous. So I was like leaning against the wall, and there's another man in there, and I thought he was older, but I think he was now. I think he was probably like in his 40s, so like pretty young. And he looked at me and he was like, "Don't worry, it gets better." And I was like, "What gets better? What are you talking about?" And he was wearing a suit, so he must have come from work or something. And he unbuttoned like the top of his shirt and showed me his scar. And I remember having this moment of like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, you and I have the same thing, and like we understand each other. And thank you for telling me that it gets better. We just had like this very, very amazing connection for like 2 seconds in an elevator. And after that, I was like, okay, this is kind of like a symbol that I have on my body. It's not so much a flaw or something that's ugly or scary. It shows what I've been through, and like that guy knew what I'd been through, and he had been through it too. I'll always remember that person. I have no idea who he is. Who knows where he is?
Wow. Just the
but yeah,
kindness
that's
of
when
a stranger.
things shifted in my mind. Yeah, and then I started becoming really, really fond of my scar, and just kind of. I do love my scar. I know that's a weird thing to say, but I can't imagine what I would be like without my scar anymore. I don't know. Like, it's just part of me. Like, I dress around my scar. I accessorize it. I take care of it.
Now, was there a time where you weren't so comfortable with it? Was there a time where it really was a...
No, I would say for the first year after my surgery, I was only wearing, like, turtlenecks. I would cover it up. Yes, there was a time that I was very uncomfortable with it. As it started to look better, that helped. And then I think the more this is something else. I started to write about my scar and share my whole story of my heart journey, like everything that happened to me with my heart attacks, all this stuff. And as I was writing it, it resonated with people reading the story, reading everything I had been through. So sharing my story really also helped me feel better about my scar. As I got feedback from people that like, wow, this is an incredible story, it sort of like sunk in. I can't believe I went through all of this, and I've got the scar to show for it. So that just kind of happened by chance, that like I was sharing my story online and it gained an audience, and I got some great feedback from it, and that helped. I mean, there's something about community that really helped me feel comfortable about my scar. Between that man and the people reading my story, I felt supported.
Yeah. If we were to break some of this down a little bit here, specifically, there's vulnerability, right? I'm willing to talk about this. I'm willing to share that I've got a scar, period, right? And the invitation from a stranger, even to say, like, who noticed your scar, to say, hey, me too. And with that connection, that there's vulnerability that goes into that. But I would also celebrate resilience. Like, hey, I haven't felt great about this, but now I'm starting to change how I feel about it. I can't change the fact that I've got this scar, right?
Yeah.
I could perhaps try to mitigate the effects of it, but instead of trying to even necessarily mitigate it here, we're talking about accepting exactly how I look and exactly what the scar is. And the alternative, in your case, no scar means we didn't survive. So scar beats death every time. And what's even interesting, as I've heard your story a couple of times now, it's remarkable to me that the first question isn't, am I going to survive? Am I going to be okay? The question is, am I going to have a scar? Which, by the way, in no way am I judging that? I think I'm probably asking the same question in that scenario. But it's interesting that instead of mortality, my brain goes to how this is going to look bad, right?
I think about that all the time. I'm like, that's a 25-year-old or 4-year-old
It's a
girl
fair thought. Yes.
Because I don't understand how that's the first thing I asked.
And there's no way you're the only one. There's no way. I'll be willing to bet it's the majority of us are probably along the same lines. We don't think we could really die at 25, even if we're having a heart attack, right? That's the Superman syndrome, right?
Yes. So anyway, when Alejandra and I were at the lunch, I was in a very good place with my scar. So I think that's why I felt comfortable asking. Now I know that it was a little too much. But we were close. Again, we were close. So we knew each other. Sure. And I didn't have kids. I didn't know what else. I didn't know anything about kids. I didn't know what else to ask.
Yeah. There. Alejandra, looking for your voice to emerge here as well. So if we go from like that lunch to the follow-up, was there a gift sent at any point from Cristina? A little peace offering? Just, hey, I'm really okay. I came in hot. Sorry.
I got a phone call and she was like, hey, I want to propose an idea to you. Can you get together? And I think it was breakfast or lunch. I don't remember. I do remember it was at, that place. It wasn't LPQ, that place in New York City. I remember where it was. Kaiser, yes. And you brought your MacBook and you had a whole pitch deck, basically. And she was like, so I really wanted to get you this present and I realized it doesn't exist. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And my mind didn't go to like, oh, we should start a business. And then she went through her pitch and it was really well thought out. And she outlined the white space like really clearly. And I had worked in mergers and acquisitions with L'Oreal. So I was like, wow, how have we not seen this? You know, immediately I was like, how has no one seen this? Like, it is a massive white space. Like, nothing exists in this whole area and it's so necessary. So I was like, and you could do this and this and this. I had like so many ideas about different products and branding and all these things. And Cristina was like, and will you do it with me? And I was like, okay.
Such a great idea. You should do it.
Let's think about this.
We. So all of a sudden it's a we. And how long from that breakfast to launch? ESTAS is now a product. People can buy this.
A long time.
Long time.
So it wasn't till we did not have a product on the market until October of 2020.
So it took a few years to come up with the right recipe and packaging and all that goes into launching a product like this.
And
maybe the
pandemic.
better question is, everything goes on pause. Can't get together. So maybe the question would be, all right, so we go from like curious to interest to like, actually, let's do something here. Let's get some action going and let's start to research. Was that immediate, Alejandra? Did that take a little more convincing? A little more, because you're busy. You got lots going on. This isn't your only thing.
Yeah, I don't remember what the timeline was for us, but I do remember being excited enough about it to be like, let's keep talking about it. I have so many ideas for you. We started getting breakfast like before work. So I would drop my daughter off at daycare early and then meet up with Cristina for a breakfast before we both went into our day jobs, just to like talk about it and think. And I was like, oh, what does exist on the market? Like, go try all the scar creams that exist on the market. Like, this is what I would have done back in my days at L'Oreal, right? I would have like assessed the market and then set like kind of a benchmark. So like if I want it to be luxury, like what's a texture that I would like what, all the luxury markers, if you will, what does that mean? How do you bring that into a product? And so kind of have like what's existing in the market and set some benchmarks. And then we started it was like such a fun phase because we were just kind of dreaming of like, what would it be called? What's the name of the company? We went through so many names. That's a whole other drama.
How did we settle on Every Scar Tells a Story? Because this is I love the name of the company as well. Like ESTAS is cool on its own. I'm not sure why that appeals to me. It's simple, it's concise, 2 syllables. But when you discover that it's every scar tells a story, I'm like, it's genius. I really appreciate that. Was that easy once you came up with that one? Is it like on the whiteboard, you're like, that's the one. It's just circled immediately. Wasn't like
No,
that.
do you remember, Christina? I feel like it was so hard.
This story is a little crazy. We went through a lot of iterations of names, and eventually, somehow, we landed on storyline, because I think it was something about scar stories, but also their lines on your body. And we thought, this is a storyline. It's a line on your body that tells a story. And our tagline was Storyline Beauty, Every Scar Tells a Story. That was our tagline. We went to go file our trademark. Hadn't told anyone, like, we didn't have product. We were just like, doing whatever we could. And we hadn't told anyone about this name. And I think it was like within a day, someone had filed and gotten the trademark for Storyline Beauty. And it was one of those things where, like, I think someone saw us doing the research somehow, and then they were trying to get us to buy it from them. We had no money. We weren't going to buy it. So we're like, okay, back to square one.
We don't have money.
Back to square one. And we kept sort of, I remember writing it down. We were like sitting at our breakfast meeting, just writing, every scar tells a story. Every scar tells a story. What looks good with this? Like, what logo will work with this? I think it was you, Alejandra. You kind of just like wrote the letters, the capital letters of each, like the acronym. And you're like, what about ESTAS? It stands for Every Scar Tells a Story. And I was like, we've got it. We've nailed it. Of course, getting a trademark for that was difficult.
The whole so true.
The whole thing was difficult because ESTAS is also a word in Spanish. And it's just a word that's like, is.
Right. Yeah, you can't, if you ever wanted to know about trademarking, you cannot trademark the word is. It's not legal. So we have to defend.
That won't work, right? Yeah, that one's aggressive. That's funny. Well, so there's a product line now for ESTAS. So catch us up there. Just in case anybody's listening to the podcast here and they're not even aware that this is an actual, hey, we love the community. There's a product. And again, we're not going to be banging people over the head here. There's no pitch. There's no opportunity. Of course, if they want to buy the product, they can buy the product. We like money. But also, this is not a place where we're going to be pitching people. It's not like we're trying to sell soap. But tell us a little bit about the product line, because that is part of the reason we are here.
Yeah. Well, that was one of our big things when we started developing product. We wanted it to be aligned, like a skincare line, like your traditional skincare routine. So the product line is formulated and acts like your 3-step skincare routine. We have a cleanser, then we have a serum, and then we have an overnight mask. And when you combine those 3, you actually get incredible results. The scars really start to soften, they brighten, they feel better. One of the things that's amazing that we hear all the time is that people that had pain or numbness or tingling or tightness in their scars, they actually start to feel relief for the first time in their life. So that's pretty amazing. We're really proud of our products, and we put a lot of love and effort into them. The ingredients we're also very proud of the ingredients. Alejandra, I feel like you have to talk about the ingredients because this is where Alejandra's expertise really came into play.
Well, and I wanted to just give more context in general. So we started by talking to, experts, right? At this point, like, we're scar survivors, but we don't know that much about scars. And my knowledge of skin came from the skincare beauty industry. And so we spoke to doctors and dermatologists and plastic surgeons. And one of the big things that to me was like pretty surprising is that a scar never goes away. So even if you were to go and get a plastic surgeon to surgically remove it, with air quotes, it's an optical illusion. Like, that skin is forever changed. You have severed the nerve endings. The skin had to grow back together. So if it, like, and people would know this, it's kind of intuitive if you think about it. Like, if you ever go out and you get a suntan and there's an area that there was or is a scar, that area, it'll look different. It'll tan differently. The pigment in it is different. And so our first step was kind of like, okay, what is scarred skin? And how does it behave? And what does it need? And why is it so different? And it doesn't have the sebaceous glands that the rest of your skin does. It doesn't sweat the same way. It might sweat a little bit, but we have a client who is a burn victim, and I think over 60% of her body was burned. And she has to be very careful. She can't go in very hot environments because she's unable to produce enough sweat to cool off her body. We just started learning a lot about scars and what they need. So less sebaceous glands, it's dehydrated skin. It doesn't have the same elasticity as skin that is not scarred. And all those traits combined with the fact that it will never go away is what kind of cemented for us that this has to be a skincare line and a routine and a routine and a habit that you just build into your everyday life. Because what exists on the market or existed are kind of medical solutions, like you take ibuprofen and the pain goes away and you're done and it's over. And that's not how scars work. So even if you bought one of those things and you used it for a month, when you stop using it, the scar's still there. And so these issues are still going to present themselves. And that's why we are so passionate about the skincare line. We get the question a lot of like, can I just like use this one thing and be done with it? And we're like, you can,
right?
But also, like that's just not the way that skin works.
It's like it's the wrong question. It's like, well, can I just floss? Why do I have to brush my teeth and use mouthwash? You're like, wrong question.
That's a great example.
Right?
That is a really good metaphor, actually. We need to start using that, Cristina.
We're going to use that for sure. That's a great one.
It's free. So, I mean, I love, though, the research, right? So, because on so many levels, I would say, hey, if I have a scar, that qualifies me to talk about it. Let's start there. But I love that you did some research here, because what do I know and what do I not know? And if we're going to come up with a product, research, and I love that you're leaning on experts in a day and age where people might just say, well, let's just come up with something. Let's just put whipped cream on it and see what that does. That's not what we've done here. We haven't used this approach. We've gone to the experts and we're finding out what works, and we're using actual real science, to actually get this going. And yet also I would say the most compelling parts about ESTAS, at least for me from the outside looking in, without any appreciable real scars there. It doesn't mean I don't have any, but I don't have a chest scar, no C-section, no major surgery yet. But at this point, for me, it's more about really that connection. And one of my favorite Metallica songs is in the chorus, it says, "Show your scars." And it's really kind of trumpeting that resilience. Like, hey, not only are you not supposed to don't be ashamed, but actually celebrate. Like, I've got the scars to show, right? It's kind of would be an ism in our society. Also celebrating the 50th anniversary of Jaws. But one of my favorite scenes in that movie is when guys that aren't connecting and don't like each other start showing each other scars, and they like have this immediate connection. Like all the barriers are down, and now this is one of my most intimate stories, right? Kind of like people are talking about tattoos. This is bigger than a tattoo because I usually didn't choose this, right? Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily art unless we make it that way, but there is a family almost connection, intimacy. When that guy in the elevator goes, it gets easier. And I see that I'm not alone. I'm part of a bigger community. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think this is I would say that my favorite aspects about ESTAS is the community and the connection.
Yeah, as we were building the brand, one of the most important things for us was to have a mission aligned with it. And that mission is to help any person with a scar feel more comfortable about their skin and their scar and the story behind that scar. So we knew that as we were building this brand, we'd have to sort of build a community along with it, a group of believers in this, because it's a hard thing to accept for some people, or to even conceptualize. But surprisingly, that was probably the easiest thing for us to do at the beginning. We were shocked that by putting the message out there of together we can change the way society looks at our scars, together we can change the way we personally feel about our scars and build a positive relationship, really resonated with people. When we first launched, we really just had basically an Instagram handle with 3 followers. I think it was our moms and our sisters. And
humble beginnings.
Yes.
There it is.
We put all of that out there. Even before we had product, we just started putting the message out there of every scar tells a story. We're here to support you on your scar journey. Let's build a positive relationship with our scar. And our DMs were filled with people sharing their stories. Wow. And messages that Alejandra and I would start crying because we didn't realize how much this was needed. Some of the things, the most intimate messages that I just would have never expected from someone who did not know us and we did not know them, willing to share details of how they feel about their scars and how it affects their relationships, how it affects their confidence. That was one of a huge sort of light bulb moment for us where we're like, oh, this is what what's really needed is this support system in this community. And we've really leaned into the community.
It's very missional, and I would say super noble. I mean, I think it's actually one of the more attractive parts about this is that you two are always on mission to really help people step into the light and kind of out of that darkness or shame of that scar. And just, we change society when individuals feel better about their scar. Right. That actually starts to change everybody's perception on this. And what a time to be alive where we could actually do that. And I know you two used to live in proximity to each other. Now you're on opposite coasts at this point. And we've decided that now's the time for a podcast. So like, as we wrap up this initial episode here, the idea was, let's keep it short and simple and just talk a little bit about ESTAS. And we're going to go deeper into each of your stories in future episodes. But Alejandra, I'll start with you. We'll finish with Cristina. Podcast, Every Scar Tells a Story. Why a podcast, and what can people look forward to hearing in the episodes to come?
A podcast to us, it's been suggested to us, honestly, since we started the brand. People are like, oh, you need to tell these stories. We need to hear these stories. And we've tried different things to get the stories out there. At one point, we even thought about putting the scar stories on our packaging so that every time you got a bottle, you got a new scar. It's all been about, sharing these stories because of the taboo and because it's been just so stigmatized against. And so the podcast idea is, it's the most natural progression of what we've been trying to do. Now that we've had many people tell us we needed to start one, and Christine and I we just hadn't taken them seriously. We're not podcasters, have a product and we do other things. And the first time we sat to really talk about it, we're going to have a real conversation about this, we realized we're both so excited about it. We're like, yeah, we would love, are you kidding? We just get to sit there and talk to people who have had scars and just share war stories and success stories and survivor stories. I mean, that's our happy place. I think that's the reason we started the brand, was to be hey, you're suffering and you don't have to suffer that bad, and this podcast is a way to kind of, magnify that, scale it up, if you will. So for us, it's the most natural progression. It's very exciting.
It sounds more like a desire to continue the conversation and even deepen it, have it be even more intimate, so we can have more voices, not just yours. Sounds like we're going to have some guests on from a wide range. Cristina, from hey, I have a scar and they're qualified, to I'm a dermatologist and here's why this works. So can you speak to some of the desire, the vision for the future episodes? Who could we expect to see on these?
That's a really good point. I think we also felt like we were talking about ourselves a lot. So we want to amplify all the stories that we've heard, the ones that we've gotten in the DMs, anyone that's willing to share their story with us. So anyone from community members that have scars to scar experts, like you said, dermatologists, surgeons, the ones that are actually performing the surgeries that leave these scars. Truly, it's anyone that's willing to share a story. We want this to be a place where those stories have a voice and they can be told in any way that you feel comfortable. And I will add, emotional scars are a thing. So if there are emotional scars that feel like you need to let it out, that's another place, another guest that we'd love to have, someone that can kind of dive deep into that.
One of our dreams since the beginning has been to get into the psychology of scars more. And I feel like this podcast will allow us to do that and bring in different type of psychologists, therapists, even look a little bit at the history of scars in society and how that's kind of evolved over time. We've become scar nerds. So, everything scar related is fair game, I think, on the podcast.
I love it. And while we don't shy away from the scars, it's also not the full story. They tell a story, but the story is really more about the person. And I love how you two not only hold space for people and see them with empathy, and you're gentle, in handling that. Maybe you've learned some things, Cristina, since that first time. I think you've learned some lessons, right? As we all have. But I do appreciate and celebrate how we're trying to shift how people think about this. And if they're coming from a place of shame, to give them permission to even just get curious about how they could feel about the scar. And that, for me, that gets me out of bed in the morning, is going, okay, how can we get people out of the darkness into the light and to be able to celebrate who they are as opposed to just feeling down and missing. So that part, I love this. And I'll be back for as many of these as you'll let me hear. The final word here, as we kind of tie off episode 1, what would you want your people thinking going forward? What would you want them to be excited about for the next episode? Why should they hit subscribe and join the community here?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, I hope that if anyone's in a position where they feel uncomfortable with their scar, or they're about to get a scar and they don't know what to expect, they feel like they have a place that they can come and they will be seen, they will be heard, they will hear other stories that hopefully will give them a sense of hope, a sense of belonging, a sense of I'm not alone in this, and a reminder that every scar tells a story. These are truly badges of honor. You don't need to love them, you don't even need to celebrate them if you don't want to, but they are not a bad thing. And we're here to support you through all of it.
I think our 100th episode will be better than our first episode, but this is a pretty good start, ladies. Well done. And thank you for inviting me to be part of this. I'm really excited to dive in with you in the future episodes.
Thank you, Trent.
Trent, you are the best. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.